We've been officially open for just a little over a year. Our anniversary date, official anniversary date, was June the 23rd. And we celebrated that date by hosting Apollo Skylab astronaut Colonel Bill Pogue, and it was a truly wonderful event. Colonel Pogue's a great guy. He did a fantastic presentation, and it was well received by the public. Everybody just really enjoyed it a lot.
Now, how did this Space Museum get underway? Was this a dream of yours, something you wanted to bring to the community? Was this something you wanted as a kid, or did this come about through a lot of people?
All of the above. All of the above. How does anybody really get captured by an idea or thought? I've been being a product, a baby boomer, and a product of the space age. I've just been captured by the whole idea of space exploration all my life. Went to school for engineering, but whenever I graduated from college, at that time, our race to the moon was essentially over, and there were a lot of engineers out of work, and so my career had to go a different direction. But in order to maintain my connection with space exploration, I continued to collect over the years. So I have about a 30-year collection that was overtaking the household, and I had to have some place to put it. And it seemed to me that a space museum would be the logical choice. And on top of that, the main reason is we want to make some of these artifacts available to people that otherwise wouldn't get to see them. Right now, you'd have to drive a fairly decent distance to be able to see some of the types and quality of artifacts that are on display at the museum.
So most of the items in the museum belong to you?
They really do. I don't major on that idea. The museum project has really grown beyond me, and it's more about education and imagination than it is personal gratuity or gain. So I don't talk about it too much. I guess again, it's more about the idea of the museum.
Well, sure. Now, you mentioned you were an engineer. What was your duties in the past that you worked? I guess you wanted to go into outer space. That was your dream. But as you mentioned, you missed that age range just by a little bit.
That's exactly right. I've been working in industry for the last 25, 30 years, various types of industry, mostly manufacturing. And it's been a very rewarding and exciting career. I guess the thing that makes me appreciate the most the space exploration the most is innovation, and how a lot of the problems that we face in our space exploration are solved by some very, very ingenious ideas. And in the type of work I've been in, that's given me an opportunity to do the same thing.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the museum now. Where exactly is it located?
It's really easy to find. Shouldn't have a problem at all. Most people are aware of the location of Bonne Terre Mine, and we're just behind the mine in the Heritage Hall building. We're somewhat small at this point, but the museum is just crammed full. There's over 1,200 artifacts in the museum. There are items that have been to the moon, flown in space, belong to the astronauts, but back to your original question, if you go past the mine, Bonne Terre Mine, and turn left, the first left on Fight Street, and go down about a block, there we are.
Well, you mentioned you're kind of small, but it sounds like you have a lot of stuff in there. How small is the museum?
Well, we have about 2,000 square feet at this time, along with offices and bathrooms and the whole facility. And that's probably a quarter of what we actually need. Our aim and goal is to expand into a larger facility. We have plans, and when I say we've actually developed a museum board. But at any rate, we have plans to add a theater and a resources center where people can come and learn about technologies, not just space or aerospace, but all technologies, and it will give us an opportunity to do training and learning sessions. We kind of have a plan on doing a mini space camp in the near future, perhaps next year. It's adequate for now, and you have to start somewhere, and our whole idea was to prove to the public that there was something to this and that we could do this and do a good job at it. And based on the post-visit interviews, we're getting that job done. Most people are very impressed with what's in the museum. Matter of fact, and I hate to take up your time, but I always use every opportunity I can to sing the praises of the museum. Greg Mariniak, who is the CEO and director for the Ansari X Prize, he's also the director of the McDonald Planetarium at the Science Center, visited us about a month ago, and he was so impressed that now he wants to do some coordinated activities with us, so we're real thrilled about that.
Earl, what kind of things can people expect to see when they go in?
Well, you're going to be greeted at the door with a life-size astronaut. Most people are very shocked. The building really kind of belies what's inside. You open the door and there he stands, and you're on a moonscape. And then you'll be treated to be able to look at some toys from the pop culture, from actually they go all the way back to the 30s. People have been dreaming about traveling in space for years and years. And so you'll be greeted with some toys, and then it really turns into a historical and chronological presentation of the space race of the 60s and space exploration in general. And finally you get up to the space shuttle and the International Space Station and our missions to Mars. So it pretty much covers the entire gamut of space exploration.
Sounds good.
Well, thanks. We believe in it. To be more specific, we have many items that have flown in space. We have Scott Carpenter's Mercury operations manual that flew with him on his flight. We have a flag that flew to the Taurus Littrow region of the moon with Gene Cernan on Apollo 17. We have a piece of the heat shield that came off of the Apollo 8 command module that circled the moon in 1968, the first manned craft to circle the moon. And the list goes on. That's not all we have.
How did you manage to get most of that stuff?
Well, it's just everywhere. It's amazing where some of the artifacts come from. But basically what you do is you start looking, you start hunting, you start asking questions, and then you begin to network with engineers and et cetera who have actually been involved in the project. There are several good auctions that occur each year. I frequently bid on items on the auction from Aurora Galleries and Superior Galleries, which are in California. There's Christie's. So, but I've even found things in small little flea markets. One or several of our items actually came from an estate sale, and they were all personal hand-signed